anything to cause that.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm gonna
Jesus.
have.
Jesus.
I'm sure, I'm sure I'm gonna have to answer for a few things one day.
Yeah, well, that's all right. At least when we're up there at our human rights tribunal. Yeah. All right, there we go. There.
At least then I can stand with a smile.
Exactly.
Oh, I did it right.
Hello to all you patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 436 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one live podcast in Canada, recorded December 2nd, 2024.
We need your help. To support the Canadian Patriot Podcast, visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 per episode. Show you're not a communist. Buy a CPP t-shirt for just $24.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit Canadian Patriot Podcast homepage and follow the link on the right.
Awesome. Which brings us to our favorite segment of the show. What are we drinking? And one thing that you've done off of the Patriot Challenge. Pierre, what are you drinking, sir?
As per usual, 40 Creek and Pepsi and water on the side in case I run out of booze, which may have, well, hopefully it doesn't happen because I got 2 cups. But Patriot Challenge, drinking the waters, trying to get a little bit better. I got recertified for first aid a little while ago,
Nice.
so
Good
um,
job.
yeah, I think it went pretty well because the instructor asked me to double back and keep an eye on 3 people. So I did the recertification, so I only had to do the 8 hours. And I was on a
Yeah.
course that was you can do half of it online and then show up and just do like the CPR and can you do this? So he's like, hey, can like you keep an eye on those people and then he'll keep an eye on the other table type thing. So I was like, well, I guess I answered a
Yeah.
few questions right and did a few things right.
Well, that's good.
Or the guy was just like, well, you already passed the pony show. Keep doing it. So yeah, I did that. Um, Getting ready for Old Man Winter. Thankfully, we didn't get hit like parts of Ontario. Um,
Yeah.
you know, fuck. Thankfully, because I was not ready for it, even though it's here. Getting the bags ready for the work truck, personal truck. Double checking some supplies, making sure we got propane. Double check the generator. Snowblower, all that stuff. So getting the winter routine done. As winter is already here, because that's the best time. Best quality work happens when you really need it.
Yeah. Nice.
You, what are you drinking?
I am drinking the giant cans of Budweiser, like the 740. So I don't know, King cans, or is that what they call those ones? Because they're bigger than tall boys. Um,
I guess.
yeah, pick these up at the gas station just down at the end of my street because it's super convenient. Welcome to the future, Ontario, where you can buy alcohol pretty much everywhere.
Yes.
One of the few things that Doug Ford has done lately that I agree with. Awesome.
Right. And I love how it was kind of pushed forward because the LCBO was like,
Yeah.
we're going to go on strike. And they were like, and Doug Ford was
Yeah,
just like,
this just
all
proves
right.
why we don't need you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Now it's at every fucking store, Costco's, everywhere. It's awesome.
Yeah.
If you can make
But
one
yeah,
stop instead of two, why not?
yeah, exactly. Doing the water thing as much as possible, although I've kind of been having a few off days here and there. I was part of the reason we've been on a bit of a hiatus was I was away in Costa Rica for a week and almost got trapped there because the runway at the airport got washed away, or at least parts of it did. So I was doing a fair bit of alcohol drinking there and maybe not keeping up on my water as much as I should have. Um, but those little umbrella drinks, like they're just so tasty.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And I mean, it's Costa Rica. It's not
Yeah,
here. Like, you
exactly.
didn't have anything that if shit hits the fan, you'd have to worry about
Yeah,
handling properly and
yeah.
doing the things as much. So
Well,
it's okay to
exactly. I mean, I
relax.
was making sure that I didn't get scurvy because there was little bits of pineapple and stuff in my drink, so that's good. Um,
Yeah.
Doing my reading, I am hopefully gonna make my goal this year. I kind of slacked off at the beginning of the year, but I've been going strong and catching up. So I'm counting right now. If I can read, finish the book that I'm doing now and 3 more then I will hit my goal of 24 books for the year.
Depending on which books you pick after this,
I
could
try
be
not to
doable.
cheat it too badly and get ones that are like, oh, this will only take me an hour. Um,
Yeah, like what is it? That one we picked that was
yeah, the
45.
dangerous
Yeah,
game or
yeah,
whatever.
dangerous
It's
games. Yeah,
like,
pick three more of those. You'll have them done by next week. You know.
I
Uh,
try not to do that. Like I try to pick things that I actually want to read. Like I would rather read something of quality and miss hitting my
yes,
goal than to cheat it and hit the goal just for the sake of hitting it. But
and read Clockwork Orange again.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um but yeah, I finished from the last podcast between then and now, I finished the Andy McNabb book that I was reading. I
nice.
finished then an Orson Scott Card, so that I've been doing kind of back and forth between like some Andy McNabb books and then like books in the Ender's Game universe.
Nice.
Um and so
Andy McNabb ones are fucking awesome.
well and so like the one that I had just finished with him was I'm reading it here, Immediate Action. So
Nice.
that's his true story about going through selection to join the SAS and part of it. And so I'm now reading Seven Troop, which is about his time in certain parts of his deployments and stuff like that. So it's kind of talking about
Nice.
some of the same stuff that was going on in the other book, but in a lot more detail because it's like this specific
Nice.
time period. So it's kind
Yeah.
of interesting because it's the same guy that does all the voices for his fiction stuff that I really like doing his like nonfiction stuff. So
Yeah, that's nice.
it's interesting. I
Ha
like
have
it.
you read his biography, Bravo 20?
No, so that's I'm gonna do
Oh,
that one next, but it's the same. Like I was trying to get them like going in the chronological
sequence.
order,
Yeah. Yeah.
not
Like I
necessarily the
have,
way that they were written, but the way that they play out.
yeah.
So
Yeah, his McNabb fiction books. I have four of them in hard copy here. And yeah,
nice. I've done
like them.
most of his fiction books now at this point, or at least all of the Nick Stone
Stone.
ones.
Yeah, the Nick
Yeah,
Stone
I've
ones.
done a couple of the
Yeah.
other ones, but worked my way through all those. But they've been, yeah, enjoyable. But yeah,
Yeah, nice. Bravo 20 is a very good read, which
yeah,
I
no,
am not
that's
not a big reader. I can
it's on
honestly
my
say
list.
that
It'll probably be
was
the one I do right after this one, just to kind of finish on the
nice.
timeline. But yeah,
Yeah, nice. No, very good book. I enjoyed it a lot.
nice.
It was very well written.
Well, we'd love to hear your feedback about the show, so please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. You can listen to the show on iTunes. You can join our Discord and leave your comments there. Um, Upcoming events, we don't have any other than, like Christmas and New Year's and all that fun stuff. So like,
Yeah, all the pagan stuff.
yeah, get drunk and be merry. Let's jump right into the news.
Ooh,
So the big thing that happened recently is I guess, well, Trump got elected.
yes,
Uh
Orange Man won.
yeah,
Yes.
he started making some threats about tariffs and how, Canada would be having to pay these tariffs to sell things into the United States.
Yeah.
So I guess him and JT have been talking, and JT flew down to Florida. So oddly enough, I think this is actually illegal. Like it's not supposed to happen where you have a sitting government figure meeting with a president
Not yet. Not yet,
elect, but
president.
who is not acting president. Like they are not
Yeah,
supposed to meet ahead of the time that they become, officially in office
but
to talk policy or anything like that. But anyways,
he could go down there and say congratulations as a good friend.
yes, because
But
they have done, things
yeah,
before.
but this is not what it was.
Yeah, but that aside from the legality of it, and I do think that Trump did get in trouble for doing this the last go around with meeting with people. But anyways, that's besides the point. JT flies down there at Trump's request to talk about some of this tariffs because the threat was that if you don't fix your border problem, we're going to hit you with a 25% tariff,
So
which is
who,
pretty
who's
substantial.
so who said that?
So Trump
I
said
didn't.
that to Trudeau, basically, we're tired
Trump.
of illegal immigrants and drugs coming from Canada into the US. He also said the same thing to Mexico. It was kind of pointed at both of us. But I
Yeah,
mean,
I
there
mean,
has been a significant portion of people traveling south across the border illegally.
yeah, I mean, I don't blame him. Have you met JT?
Yeah, I would want to leave too. Yeah.
And what he's
Yeah.
done, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I don't. I mean, tariffs aside, I mean, he won. He's
Yeah.
looking at the best for his country.
Absolutely.
And
He's doing
if tariffs are a thing where he's like, hey, I'm going to put tariffs on imports from another country to hopefully stimulate people in production here to certify
he's
jobs,
yeah,
do
he's
our
doing
economy. You do your thing. Like, I mean, yes, it's going to affect us, especially if
yeah.
there was a big export thing. But at the same time, like, fine, we
Well,
need someone that
he
does the things and does the same.
and that's the problem with Trudeau. And I mean,
JT,
I
yeah,
believe Trump called him weak at one point last time when he was in power.
it's an
But
under fucking statement.
yeah,
But
but Trump is doing the right thing here, and
yeah,
he's using, these threats to enact policy in other
action,
countries, which he should be doing
action.
because he's right. Like we have shitty border control,
Oh,
as
Jesus.
evidenced by all of the things getting smuggled, one way or the other across the border. But like,
Yeah,
half of the border problem is our problem because we are one side of the border.
yeah. But
The US is the other,
there's,
so we need to
yeah,
do our part and they need to do their part. But
yeah,
yeah, so
right.
that's the
So it,
whole premise of this meeting was going
yeah,
down there to talk about the border issue so that we don't get hit with tariffs.
right. But I also find that it's kind of silly that he's sitting there saying you get your border secured better, um, so that we don't hit you with these tariffs. But also, like, fine, people crossing our border into your border. That falls under who's responsible for
Well,
it.
I mean, yes,
There's
but
a gray
like,
area.
yeah. I mean, like, technically they have to cross through US customs to enter, but why are all of these people that are illegals in the country to begin with?
Yes. And also, you'd have a harder or better leg to stand on if you enforce the Canadian border a little bit more and
Yeah,
actually caught people and sent them back to Canada as a thing, saying like, "Hey, one of your fuckers tries to get over here, and
yeah.
he's yours now. He's not allowed to come." Right? So, I mean, unless it happens on the backside and we don't hear about it, or it's not as easily accessible of statistics of how many people go from Canada to US in comparison to, the southern border of the US, uh, and come across. So yeah, I just find it a little
Yeah.
funky that, compared to Mexico, like they're doing a giant thing at the south border where they can have a
But
leg to stand on and be like, look at the what we're doing and look at what
yeah,
you're not doing.
yeah,
So,
yeah. So they had to JT flies down to Florida to Trump's big club hotel place, Mar-a-Lago, that he lives in, everything down there.
yeah.
Apparently it was a very productive,
Mm.
and people have commented that Trump had his personal iPad sitting on the table of which he played a lot of musical choices because he can control the music in the place from his iPad. So that was
Well,
apparently something that they were talking about. And in Trump's post to Truth Social, his social media platform that he started after getting kicked off, he himself said that it was a productive meeting. So that's good. But
well,
what has come out of this? That's
oh,
the part that's interesting, right? So it seems that the biggest problem, at least according to Trump, is illegal fentanyl.
yeah, 100%.
So
They'll just
he's it's not that he's not concerned about like human trafficking across the border and that stuff. That is also something to be worried about. But the biggest problem he sees is illegal fentanyl that's being made in China, finding its way into Canada, and then making its way across the border into the US.
yes.
That's what he
Um,
sees as the biggest problem.
and I'll probably sound like an asshole saying this. Human trafficking is obviously a thing,
Yes.
but fentanyl can have a way more devastating thing of um,
It's a
death.
more widespread problem
Yes, where
affecting,
obviously human trafficking, right? Like let's say a sibling, family member, very
yes.
good friend gets taken and takes 2 years to get them back. You can get them back where a bad batch of fentanyl, um, you don't get the people back. Yes, there's
Yes, if
trauma
we're
involved, like
yeah, if we're talking
right,
sheer
like
numbers of people that it affects, though, the
yeah,
fentanyl problem is affecting a much larger segment of the
yes,
population because there are a lot of people that are addicted to it and overdosing on it, like
yeah,
across the country. So yes, it is a
and
terrible problem.
yeah, and not just U.S. It's a Canadian problem. It's probably a problem in many other countries. Like
Yes.
it's I would say it's pretty much a global thing.
Oh,
But
absolutely it is. Like it is a crazy addictive drug that is very easy to overdose on. So it is a massive
yes,
problem everywhere. And then you have, I mean, China manufacturing illegal fentanyl through all of the gangs and this and that, and that's a whole other thing.
yeah,
But yes, it is a massive problem. So what's being done about this, I guess, in order to stave off these tariffs, although everyone kind of admits that all of the things that we need to do that we've committed to doing, we won't be able to
yeah.
do immediately. So it is unlikely that,
Anything's gonna get fucking done.
well, that we are going to avoid the tariffs. So we will likely have to pay the tariffs until we actually start making good on the promises and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But the promises that were made. So the RCMP is considering deploying 1/4 of its eastern workforce to operational priority areas, including the border.
So
So I don't
just
know
one.
whether they have like an eastern, a central, and a western, or just an east and a west, but like I guess that means if we're going east and west, 25% of a half, so like 12.5% of their
Yeah, like
roughly, I guess,
I mean,
to the border and
de
other
de
priority areas.
depending how they split east, west, central, or whatever. I mean, wouldn't the RCMP be responsible for, or at least the East RCMP be responsible for one of the biggest mass casualties that could have been prevented and didn't?
Yeah. We're gonna, yeah,
So,
but that's fine.
okay, all right.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we're not looking at that.
all right. Give me 2 minutes.
Yeah,
I'm listening. Just give me.
yeah. But so the RCMP is going to redeploy some of its troops to hopefully help beef up the border. Other premiers, so different provinces have also committed to doing some things as well. So Doug Ford has said that he's going to, help and offered the OPP and some of their resources to help to this demand request from Trump on how to properly secure the border. Um, So we've also said that they need more permanent funding for the RCMP and Canadian Border Services, or CBSA. Uh, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says that she is also considering creating a provincial border patrol because she doesn't think that, the current resources are enough and that the government can't really, at least as it is right now, do anything about it. So one of the other things that they're planning to do to beef up the border security is by buying new helicopters to patrol the skies. So the RCMP has apparently been asking for helicopters for quite a while, like every other procurement thing in the military, of which technically the RCMP is part of. We keep telling them no, or we get halfway through the contract and then decide to cancel it. But yes, as a result of all of this, we have agreed because the Donald has said so that we will buy the RCMP helicopters so that they can fly the helicopters across the border and
Okay,
make sure
so
that everything is safe.
all right, so I needed a few minutes, about a minute and a half, 2 minute break.
Yeah.
You said lots of things where I have giant issues with.
All right.
All right, so we're gonna start with OPP. Doug Ford saying, "Fine, we'll take OPP resources to help assist with the border."
Mhm.
Um, provincial funded anything should not be responsible for anything border related. Border related is federal. CBSA. So the funding for CBSA, fine, may need to go up whether you want to disagree or agree with it. OPP, provincial fundings, municipal cops, even if you're on a municipal cop close to the border, those funds should not go to anything of that source due to the fact that it's not my fucking responsibility to make sure someone doesn't cross that border because that border is already CBSA's responsibility.
Yep.
So some fine, someone failed and they get into a place, fine, yes, let's dispatch OPP, RCMP, municipal police, whatever you want to call it, Sûreté Québec, all those things. Yes, fine. I'm not saying leave CBSA to their own if someone gets past that, but let's not take provincial
Yeah.
funding that is already scarce and short and gypped on everything, where most people spend more money on um, tools compared to getting adequate training for those set tools
Yep.
or tools that aren't necessarily related. And hey, let's just get more people comfortable behind a firearm, better training, de-escalating situations, taser, all
Yep.
those things, right? So that RCMP should have nothing to do with CBSA. They're not They're a federal police force here. They're
Yep.
not responsible for the border. So why are we procuring anything to
Yeah.
do with border security and say, we're going to patrol the border for you? Is CBSA paying for that at an hourly rate or
Yeah.
at a discounted rate, just like RCMP is for any municipal that is using them as a police force compared to their own?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I mean, there are different agencies in this country that have different responsibilities,
Yeah.
and it doesn't
If you
mean that
can't,
they can't work together because some of those things may overlap, and it might be that like, hey, the OPP finds out about a smuggling thing because they responded to
yeah,
something else, and then they talk to
that,
the RCMP, who then brings in CBSA, and they kind of do like a joint
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
But
that I'm not opposed to, but I'm saying taking
yeah, it is
OPP
not.
resources
Yeah,
to
it
supplement
is not
CBSA's job.
the OPP's responsibility to secure the border.
Yeah.
You could argue, I guess, with the RCMP a little bit because they are a federal police force, but generally it is CBSA's responsibility because that is the
Yeah.
Canadian Border Service Agency. That is their responsibility to secure the border.
So if it's kind of RCMP's job, what's the CBSA for? Right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you could kind of argue it a little bit one way or
yeah,
another because they're the federal police and you're crossing the federal border, but like ultimately, yes, it is
yeah. And
CBSA, although I mean it's also maybe the military's, responsibility to enforce our borders, but
well,
that's yeah.
it's no
Uh,
here or there. But the Alberta premier is saying they want to make their own border security or whatever.
yeah.
And I mean, well, that's going to be um, provincially funded.
Yep.
So if the constituents are okay with whatever the tax revenue or taxes going up or whatever those
Yeah.
funds allocated out of the taxes, supporting that, I mean, that's on them. I
Well, I mean, I think she's doing it. I've linked another article, but we don't have to get into
Yeah,
but about her specifically, but like I think her worry is that like she realizes that there is no way that Trudeau will be able to do the things that he's saying.
yeah,
And she's trying to protect Alberta and Alberta's interests by saying like, no, 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 no. If we do this and we
yeah,
secure the border, at least in this part of the world,
yeah.
please don't tariff the oil and gas industry because that will drastically affect Alberta.
Yeah. Right.
So
So
there's a reason why she's doing it, but also,
yeah,
yes, like it really isn't Alberta's responsibility either. It
no.
is CBSA's as they are Canadian
Well,
Border
so
Services. But
out of the four borders in Alberta, one of them is not Alberta's responsibility,
Yeah.
right? Like anything,
Yeah.
Saskatchewan, BC, maybe four up there. I don't know if Nunavut
Yeah.
or not Nunavut, but Northwest Territory, like they're responsible for those. But the one beneath it, that
Yeah.
links to the U.S. is not their responsibility.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, good on them. Alberta
Yeah.
kind of that
She's
premier
yeah.
kind of gives me hope about Canada.
Yeah. She's
Because
trying
you
to
get
do
like,
the right thing and
yeah,
look after her province. Right.
yeah, her constituents. She was voted
Yeah.
there to be a representative for them, and it seems like she's doing a bang job at it.
Yeah.
Just out of most of the news articles that come out, I mean, someone out there
Yeah.
might say differently, but all in all, I would probably give her a giant success compared to everywhere else.
Yeah. The problem brings up a an interesting point here. Choppers are expensive. Maybe
Uh,
they should use drones
Allegedly.
instead.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, over the last year and change, we have proven that drones are essentially a disposable item because they're just
Yeah.
blowing them up everywhere. So I mean, aside from the fact that they might be harder to get our hands on, they are certainly a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
You know, we've been playing around with drones, doing my search and rescue stuff. They've got all kinds of things that help.
Oh, it's
Night vision cameras, thermal cameras, and all the things. And man, like if you've got those two things on a drone, it's pretty hard to hide.
not just that,
So
it's also the square footage that can cover compared to how,
absolutely.
how many man hours and
Uh,
potential danger to yourself, right?
Oh yeah,
You
you
can
could have those things
misjudge something.
whipping along that border, and like with AI and everything now,
Yeah, that's what we need.
if
An
it
AI
spots,
jet,
well, but if it like it, not even that, like it would respond to a thing on its own, like RoboCop or
allegedly.
anything. But like, if all it's doing is just traveling that route all on its
Yeah,
own, and as it picks up a heat signature or something, it lets
it
somebody
sends a
know
ding. Yeah,
so
it
that
sends a
someone
ding.
can look at it and go, okay, we need to send resources there to check this out.
Yeah,
Right?
or
Like
that's a
that can be
moose.
done
Yeah,
fairly
or
inexpensive.
yeah, or oh, that's a bear, or that's a coyote,
Yeah.
that's a moose traveling. Like, fine, fine. Let's pay one person to look.
Yeah.
Let's even say one person per those provinces at the bottom, which is only 10 people,
Yeah.
right?
There
8 hour
there's
shifts, and the drone and feed comes in. It's like, hey, that might be something we need to look into, or no, that's a beaver looking to get American wood to build his Canadian shelter.
yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, so the helicopters, fentanyl is a big thing.
yeah,
Tariffs unavoidable right now, but they're working on it. Um, yes, Alberta's premier is saying that Trudeau's policies are a barrier to a unified approach because Trudeau is terrible.
yes,
Um, in the same bigger story here, one of the things that Poilievre is saying here is that there should be a cap on asylum seekers.
agreed.
So, not that we shouldn't help people and do all the things, but there needs to be a cap.
Yes. And that cap should come, sorry,
Yeah.
after we help most people in this country.
Yes.
Sorry, let me rephrase that. Not most. After we have helped everybody in this country, then we can help others.
Yeah.
But that we're splitting hairs if people don't want to split hairs because of
Yeah.
whatever. But
Yeah.
yes, I agree.
Poilievre is saying that the plan should include measures to increase patrols and technology to crack down on illegal drug trafficking, as well as tightening visa rules and working with provincial law enforcement. That's what he thinks should happen. Which yeah, I mean,
I mean, it's better than what we got now.
yeah.
It's not the absolute solution that I said that let's put all
Yeah.
the money into Canada and get Canada better than we can help.
Yeah.
But it's way better than what we have now, where we've got open borders and we allow people to come in this country across
Yeah.
the fucking Quebec border where the RCMP was hosting and everything and did
Well,
investigations
yeah, I
and
mean that's my problem with
like
them using the border, like being responsible. It's like the last time you guys were responsible for the border, um, you weren't. turning people away.
No, you were accepting
You
them with
you
open arms.
you weren't even confiscating their child pornography. You were handing them
That's
bottles of water, like and
and their
saying,
child pornography back.
"Yeah,
Like, you should not have this, and then you handed that hard drive back and
yeah."
didn't
It's
take
one
that
thing to
person's
just
info
be
down.
like, "We're taking this and throwing it away and turning you
Yeah,
around, but we're not going to arrest you because you're not our problem." That's
yeah,
one thing,
yeah.
right? I
Or,
mean,
or or
they
the
should have
other
had a
thing of
wood chipper that's immediately there and they just chucked them
yeah,
immediately into it.
yeah,
But I will settle for we have confiscated the things that you're not supposed to have and turned you around and sent you back that way. That would
yeah.
have
But
been the least they could have should have done. But
yes, a bare minimum. I mean,
yeah,
fine, you want to be the humane thing. Like, fine, take all his info, take it away, and then you keep a close eye on him while he's here. Fine, some
yeah,
people will say that's better, but handing it back and saying you shouldn't have that, and then not following up or keeping any tabs on that person is a giant issue that most people don't know and understand. And here we
yeah,
are.
yeah. So I mean, Poliver is quoted as saying the reality is that Trudeau has lost control of the deficit of immigration and of our border. In less than 2 months, President Trump will come into office. He's threatening the possibility of imposing tariffs unless there's action to address Trudeau's broken border. So, as of September 30th of this year, uh, more than 33,000 claims of asylum have been granted, and 250,000 are in the queue waiting to be processed. That's
Uh,
a lot of people.
so, also, just below that, in all
Yeah.
of 2023, Canada accepted 37,000. And in
Yeah.
2022, they only accepted 28,000.
Yeah.
So we're talking like almost so from 2022 to 2024, we're talking almost 100% more,
Yeah. And I mean, like,
which would be
I
good for revenue, but not for dependence.
yeah. Well, and this is the thing. So like I can't, shit on some of these things too hard because like my father did come to this country as a refugee, but he came here, he worked hard, he adopted primarily Canadian way of living. He didn't
Yep.
forget where he was from and his culture and all of those things, but he also embraced moving away from where he was because
Yeah.
that was not good, and that's why he
Yeah.
left. And it wasn't that like his culture and all of those things were bad. It was that he lived in a communist country and they were terrible. And like,
Yeah. And you
if you
you
said
probably
the
got a
wrong thing, you would get shot,
yeah,
which is what happened to his father. So he left.
right?
He was like, "This is a terrible place to be. I'm leaving here."
And
Found
and
his way here. Yeah.
he
And
probably took those things that were nice, where you probably have traditions and meals that
yeah,
are
the
not
meat.
accustomed to Canadians, but he's like that. I have good memories with this, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna go
he
find all these
adopted, yeah,
sources. Yeah,
adopted a Canadian way of life. He learned the language, he went to school, he started a business and did all of the things and became a contributing member of society, which is like,
hmm that's all we
the
ask for. We don't ask for much.
American dream or the Canadian dream, right? That you could
Yeah,
go and make something of yourself
yeah,
through hard work and all of the things, right? But the possibility is there. You have the potential to do that, as
yeah,
opposed to now where it just seems that, yeah, we have all of these people coming here. And fine, I get it. Like you want to leave where you are because there's less opportunity there and go to somewhere that has more, but then they don't leave the negative behind. They bring all of it
yeah,
here and then they don't
yeah,
change their attitude or their way of life in any significant way and continue to just live the same shitty life
yeah.
and sponge off the system. And it's like, no.
And
But
and I just want to say, to be clear, which should be said, you and me know it, but just in case we got some fucking
yeah,
thesis or leftist listening, like, by adapting the way of life, I'm not saying that you should have a set couch and a specific TV in your house and
yeah,
accommodate
but
all those things.
it's
But like, when you go into the public space, you understand the public rules. Your
Yeah,
house, you choose to
yeah,
sit on the pillows and have really low tables, eat with your
yeah.
hands, not have cutlery, that like
To do whatever you
all
want.
the things. But public spaces are for
Yeah,
everybody, you know,
yeah,
just as much as you want to disagree with my beliefs and I want to disagree with your
yeah.
beliefs. The
As long
public
as we're not
space
being
is where,
disruptive.
yeah, the public is the neutral space where we agree to disagree. And
Yeah,
then, but if I come into your house and I say that you invited me over for supper and I want to eat steak and you say we don't eat meat here and we sit on the ground and then
yeah,
I want to fight about it, you have every right to stand where you are and
yeah.
accuse, like say all the things. But
But yeah,
everything outside of that area
yeah, you
is,
can't tell me I can't just sit in the park and eat a steak, right? Like, because
yeah,
you don't like it,
yeah,
right? Like, I'm not gonna sit there and tell you you have to eat one, and you can't tell me that I can't.
yeah.
We'll just
Just,
leave each other
just,
alone.
just like I don't like
Yeah,
chickpeas and you're eating chickpeas. Like
yeah,
that's like I should not be able to tell you you can't do that in the
yeah,
park,
exactly.
right?
Although, like
As I'm
a
barking.
little hummus every now and again is fine. But yeah,
Right?
but yeah.
Yeah.
So I
So
mean, it just seems that like we got to do something, and I agree because like there's a massive problem with the border. We know this.
yeah,
We've decided to like piss that money away with doing all of these consultations for gun buybacks and this and that, rather than like taking
arrive
those
can. Yeah.
millions of, yeah, or the Arrive Can thing for COVID. All of that money could have been gone to buying scanners for the border and doing things and all that that would actually secure
So
the border and stop bad shit from coming into Canada and or leaving Canada and hopefully catching it all of that at the border and then we can deal with it appropriately.
yeah. So not even getting on arrive can. So I went to the US recently and I haven't been in the US in years. I went there for work, did some training, came back. And when I arrived back, I go through custom,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Land at the airport, go through customs. So there's a person standing there. And then I've got a self-serve where I got to scan my own passport. There's a camera watching me, and
Yeah,
I answer all the questions. Did you
and then
buy anything
you hand
outside
them the
of
piece
this?
of paper. Yeah.
Yeah, and hand them the piece of paper. And then I walk by, and then I got to go through all this other thing, and
Yeah.
I have to have that piece of paper past that one person. And then the other person, they've got like, I don't know, fucking three people looking at Facebook and one person taking the papers. And then eventually one person, they're like, okay, go in that room and everything else. And I'm just like, so why are we
Yeah.
investing so much in border security if I got to do all the fucking goddamn work myself?
Yeah, I mean I travel frequently and I've found that while it was a nuisance to have to go and have to talk to the people and do
Yeah,
all the things, and I get that there's
it
some screening
sucks.
stuff and all that, but it
But
seems that the screening has gotten a lot more lax. Because I've had
yeah,
that where like I have not had to say a word to anybody.
no.
Like they just look at my piece of paper and tell me to go, and then I have to like show it to the other guy to show that they've put the little red line through it, right?
Well,
And then
that didn't even happen to me.
you hand it to the guy at the end, and no one has said anything to me.
No.
I mean,
Like
I've
when
hit
I
all the
let,
things in the machine or whatever, but like,
yeah, like that didn't even happen to me. Like
yeah,
nobody said anything, right? Because the person that I handed my
yeah,
paper to was too busy talking about the date they had the night before. So it's like this
yeah.
whole
The ones at the
interaction.
end are the worst because they're always yammering on about something or other to each other,
Yeah.
and like,
And
yeah,
I'm just like, what happened to, like, fine, yeah, you got drug dogs, but all these things where I'm just like, okay, I have to do someone else's job. I'm like, why are we paying so much for security here? I was like, we've got 20 computers. Computers don't cost as much as man labor.
yeah.
I don't agree with computers doing the job, hence why I don't use like self-serve, but it's just like that there's an
Well,
intimidation factor for most people coming up to
well,
border security. So
and
if you're
I'm
doing something shady, you're probably going to be a little more nervous
yeah.
than
Well, and
answering the questions yourself.
I'm fine with using the computer to answer like ask the questions that they have to ask everybody. But I still think that when you hand that piece of paper to the first one and they look at it, they should have to interact with you like
A
at
little bit,
least a little bit rather
yeah,
than just look at your piece of paper and tell you to go. Right?
yeah,
Like you should have to answer a question like they might ask you something so that you have to refer to it so you understand or
Yeah.
whatever. Like it doesn't have to be long because that's a pain in my ass, and I get it. They like I would rather them focus on the people that are potentially shady
Yeah. Where
than
I'm not a
like talking to me for 20 minutes just because they have to talk to me for 20 minutes.
because
But
you got a beard, you're a white guy, and
yeah,
you're probably and you declared you had a gun to travel because you were doing something,
yeah.
right? Like we're probably
But
not the problem if you're
no, but I
saying
still
everything I
want
got.
them to like ask me a question. Like,
Like I just want to, as much
yeah,
as I hate it, I would feel better all the funds going
yeah.
for CBSA if I had to have interactions that they were assholes.
I
I'd be
get
like,
that it's
fuck, we're
security
spending,
theater to a certain extent, but like entertain me, right? Like show me the
yeah, like,
theater so I feel
yeah,
better at least.
show me the things where I'm just like,
Because yeah, if you don't even ask me anything, I know that other people are getting through without being asked anything, and that's a problem.
yeah, in some scenarios. In most scenarios, it's probably not a problem, but
In the odd thing that it is, then it's a big
yeah,
problem.
yeah.
But
But
yeah,
yeah, sorry for
yeah.
the little side
No, no,
tangent.
no. Speaking of big problems, though,
Mm.
Doug Ford's chief of staff is missing months of government texts after phone was reset.
Ooh.
So,
If this was a liberal thing, it'd probably be swept under the rug already.
oh, we wouldn't even hear anything about
That way.
this. But Doug Ford's chief of staff, Patrick Sackville,
Mm.
has apparently used his private email to do government stuff, sending this and that, and communications with people and whatever. And I guess there's some investigations going on into the Ford government lately about, like a Green Deal and this and that and all kinds of other stuff that's been going on. And so they're looking into this, and I guess he traded in his personal phone. And when he did that, magically all of these messages have vanished.
No, so they didn't vanish. They say in the article that when he changed his device, the text
Yeah,
messages were stored on the phone
and he
and
didn't
not on
back
the
it up.
cloud.
Yes.
So when they did the update on the new phone, they went there. So if this is a giant problem, there's a
Yeah,
very
I mean,
simple solution to it.
get
I
the
have
phone
a
and
no, I have a work phone.
yeah,
Everything I do on that work phone goes to the cloud and
yeah,
a fine cloud database, whatever, however you want to call it. Where if I want to put anything work related on my personal phone, I need access. So I need my work phone, I need my personal phone. I got to use my thumbprint. I got to put a code in.
yeah,
I got to get authorized. And automatically, the second I do that, my personal phone gets backed up.
yeah.
So I don't do anything work phone and personal phone related. But this is a very simple solution to
Well, yeah,
prevent
I
this from
mean,
happening.
and I would assume that like, I mean, government officials, especially government officials at that level, like we're not talking
Yeah,
about like a municipal level and somebody that works at like the Parks and Rec or whatever, where you're like, there is like,
it's a good
who
show.
really needs to do anything security wise with this? Not that they shouldn't
Yeah,
try to be safe, but like
yeah,
you're talking provincial level chief of staff, like so a fairly
so,
important position
yeah,
for a large portion of the thing. Like I would be okay with going, here is your work phone and taxes pay for this for you to do your job and do your job securely because there's probably some confidential things that
yeah,
could really fuck things up if we don't pay attention to
yeah.
this.
And
Right?
if
And
they
like
don't,
this is
then you're
this is your
charged.
work phone. And like if you leave this position, we get the phone back and the next guy gets it. And then,
Yeah,
so on and so forth, like a lot of companies do with like sales reps or whatever. You don't get a
yeah,
personal phone, you get a work phone. And when you leave, we get the
yeah.
phone back because that
I
phone number goes to this, right?
yeah, and that's
And
exactly
that
what
would
I'm saying. Like,
solve a lot of those problems. Then he wouldn't be using personal things for business things and business things for personal things. And if he did,
yeah,
it would be clear that this is wrong. It's like, no, no, no. you sent a personal text from your work phone, that makes it public record because it's a
Yep.
government position. But yeah, he's been
Which I thought that was already a thing,
willy-nilly
but
doing all the things and upgrades his phone, and now months of text, which technically are public records, are vanished.
which is also funny that they mentioned in this that when he traded his phone in December, it
Huh.
also covered a period of the time where multiple investigations into the government's
Yeah.
Greenbelt scandal were underway.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, totally not suspicious at all. I mean, I
no,
remember for a very brief moment in time when Dougie was our guy.
yeah, like prior to him actually getting in,
Well, no, for like the first 2 or 3 weeks from his first go around, like he started like,
he said things.
well, I know, but he
What the?
started like making cuts and doing things, and then it was like, okay, he got 3 or 4 weeks in, and then that just stopped, and then he just like,
I mean,
for lack of a better way of explaining it, I mean, he still has some fiscal understanding, but he took a hard
yeah,
left.
yeah.
He
But I
became
will
some
also
crazy
say,
liberal, but
at least we haven't found pictures of Dougie with a bunch of crack
it's
dealers
true.
yet. Yet,
He was only selling the dope, and that was back in the day. He never got, at least
yeah,
got
it
caught,
had nothing to do with
yeah, for
him
doing
while
crack in
he
an
was
alley.
high and probably yeah.
Yeah,
So obviously, I want to say sorry to
yeah.
hear because his brother did pass away from a bunch of things, but just
But
saying we're
also he
following
made
news
poor
articles.
choices. Yeah, he
Yeah,
made
he
poor
made poor
choices.
choices, and we're talking news articles.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, it's really weird that like a guy that's being investigated right now somehow magically had his phone get not backed up and now there's missing
yeah,
stuff. But whatever.
yeah.
On to more shady government things.
Ooh,
Um, Health order sending Manitoba woman to jail for tuberculosis treatment. So there was a woman here that was undergoing treatment for tuberculosis, which is a pretty serious thing, but like it's we've been around with it for a while. Like TB is a thing. We used to have TB like clinics where we would send people to like live out and die in the TB
yeah,
thing and all that. We figured out how to deal with it now for the most part. This person had it, and they were taking medication for it, and I guess they didn't always take the medication at the time that the treatment center they were going to, I guess, wanted them to take it. So there's the assumption that they were not taking it. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But um, the Manitoba public health official ordered her to be detained. So they went and arrested her, or at least detained her, and put her
yeah,
into a treatment center and a jail.
yeah.
So under the Public Health Act, she was jailed for
Yes.
not taking her TB treatment because she was a public health risk.
So how did they deem that she wasn't taking the medication consistently as prescribed?
Yeah, so I guess reading here, she lives at God's Lake First Nation,
Hmm. Okay.
so a remote community in Manitoba.
Hmm.
So she would, according to the health unit where she would go, I'm trying to read the thing here. So they were not consistent at taking the medication needed to cure the tuberculosis, an infectious disease that can be fatal if not treated.
Okay, so if she dies, like if she knows she has tuberculosis and doesn't take the medication, she passes away. That is nobody's fault but her own.
Yes, I mean what they're worried is
It's
that she could potentially pass it on, but I guess
oh,
whatever, according to her, like the medication would make her not feel great. So from time to time, I guess she would delay taking the medication so that she could get stuff done. around the house or wherever she needed, and then would take that medication, that day, but later in the day, I guess after wherever she picked it up from in the nurse's station or whatever had closed. But so the nurse station wouldn't see her take it. She's saying she would take the pills, but as a result of them saying that she had missed so many, she is not curing her tuberculosis and is a public health threat because she could infect other people.
But so at the beginning of their, like, this is where it gets confusing because at the beginning of it is a Northern Manitoba woman with no criminal charges was jailed after they detained her for not treating her tuberculosis,
Yeah.
even though she wasn't infectious at the time.
Yeah.
So is this like the jab thing?
Well, and this is sort of like what I'm getting at here is like
Like,
this is kind of a scary thing is that like the health unit where she is has decided that she is not taking care of herself
yeah,
and is a risk to the public. Well, okay, and like don't TB is bad, right? Like it is a
I,
serious thing and needs to be taken seriously, but also
yeah,
still, just because someone doesn't take their like it's not like she was running around in public and like coughing on people and licking them and spitting in their food and like that, but
yeah,
like there are people that know that they have diseases, STDs, and so on and so forth, and are going around and sleeping with other people knowingly with these things and not doing anything about it and not informing them and everything. And we're not jailing those people. This worries me because if they're going to do this for things like this, what is to say the next go around it doesn't happen for COVID or other things that they go, well, so you didn't get the jab and therefore you are a risk to public safety for health concerns. And so now we're going to jail you. Because that is the argument that they've made for her here. So it is
so,
entirely possible that they could, oh, the vids is back.
mm,
You
mm-hmm.
didn't get the jab. You are now a threat to public safety. Into the jail you go. It's also weird that like we're worried that you're going to get a bunch of people sick, so we're going to put you in a confined area with a bunch of people.
That are still
Seems kind of
purebloods.
seems kind of contrary to how public
Um,
safety works. Like if it would be like, hey, we're going to make sure that you don't leave your house so that
yeah,
you don't infect other people, but no, we're going to put you in jail with a bunch of people that can't get away from you.
yeah,
That's
and
totally how we're gonna, yeah.
potentially don't have the
Yeah.
things to prevent it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we were running down that very faint line of, fine, okay, fine, you just stay in your house. Where now we're
Yeah.
confining someone to something for beliefs and the public health, and I'm like, we're splitting hairs, especially after COVID's and how that was treated. Uh, if we were talking 2017, I mean, yeah, I would have said like, fuck, put SWAT around her house and make sure she doesn't leave, right? Because it's a thing that we were told was bad and
Yeah, and like
maybe only affects a certain amount of people with certain things and this and that compared to how the
yeah.
COVID's affected people. So now I like I have a hard time, saying that fine, she wasn't infectious and she wasn't taking medication, but I'm like, that should be her right. But then you fall
Yeah.
down the road of, okay, well, do you get to use the public spaces that is public funded if you don't want to
Well,
follow public
but that's the
rules? And
but that's the thing
right,
though, is that like being in public is inherently dangerous. I mean, it is entirely possible that like she like okay, so she
you could have
obviously
it and not even know it,
but that's what I was getting at. Like, so
right?
she
Like, yeah,
knew that she had it and that she was taking her pills. They just determined that like according to them, well, you weren't taking them
yeah,
frequently enough, and so we're pissed off at you and we're going to punish you. But it is
yeah.
entirely possible that you have something that you don't know about. But being in public is inherently dangerous. You can't, if you want to be safe and safe from these things that you think are dangerous, the only place to ensure that is in your own home where you can take the precautions that you feel are
Yep.
necessary. Or like get a bubble suit and walk around in public in a bubble suit, which is also something you could do.
Yep.
But it scares me that they can send a woman to jail because they don't think that she's taking her meds. Not that they've proven that she hasn't
Yeah.
taken them.
Yeah.
They
And
just think that she's not.
yeah, we're just getting down a real slippery slope that I'm like,
Oh yeah,
I know
that that
I don't
worries
know
me.
if, and I've said a lot of shit live on the YouTubes before, and I'm like, this is one of the ones where I'm like, I'm kind of biting my tongue because I'm like, I might get in more trouble compared to a bunch of shit I've already said on here, right? Like, because we're getting down that slippery slope of, how many times have we get flagged for false narratives on the
Yeah,
COVIDs and this, that,
but
and I've said
yeah.
many things about what we should do to
Yeah, so for
politicians when they
anyone
don't
that is
pull
fact
through.
checking it, this has actually happened, and public health
Yes,
has put this
yes,
woman
yes,
in jail. We are quoting this article.
yeah,
So this has happened, and yes, we are
yeah,
speculating, but I don't think that that is a stretch of the imagination to say that,
yeah. And in case someone is fact checking this,
yeah,
I just posted the news article in the
yeah,
live chat on the YouTubes.
yeah.
So
So like,
you can click the thing. And
if
yeah,
if the COVID is as dangerous and deadly, and they still are going with the narrative that you need to be vaccinated in order to prevent the transmission and or lessen the things, it is entirely possible that someone could be jailed for that.
yeah.
Yeah, which is
And
ridiculous. Like
um,
you can't put people that have not
yeah.
done anything criminally wrong in jail just because you think they don't take their meds for a disease. But yeah, that's crazy. On to other crazy things. So apparently in Calgary,
Mm.
there is a street where people that are, I don't want to call them homeless because they have homes. It's just that their homes are mobile homes
Okay.
and they park them on the side of the road and live
Legal.
there.
Mm.
The city,
That's up for debate, but
yeah. I mean, in where I am in Peel, we're not allowed to park on the road for more than 3 hours.
mhm.
Citywide bylaw.
It's a shitty bylaw, but okay.
Oh, I know. And it like I can't park my car in front of my own house. I know. Like
Yeah, and we talked about how to do the driveway thing. If you put
yeah,
asphalt,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
legal, but
All the
stone is,
dumb things,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But they think there's a difference between I live at this address. I own
yeah.
this piece of land and I want to park my car in front of my house on a public road versus I live in an RV and I park the RV on a public road. I get it. These people need to live somewhere and they're
Um,
slightly better off than other people in that they have an RV,
yeah,
but
and I mean,
also it is still a public road. But
yeah,
the city wants to do maintenance and is putting up no parking signs and telling them that they need to go and pound sand.
um, so playing both sides here. So if they live in an RV, for that, they probably need fuel to run the generator, food,
Yeah.
this, that. They're probably using local places to do that. So local, me spending money in a town, there's revenue that comes from that town, and you know, there's kickback compared to being a parasite and living in a tent and using food shelters.
We'll get to that
Um,
article after this one. Don't worry.
yeah, right. So just saying, like an RV, right? So
Yeah.
there's maintenance on it. Yeah, whether it breaks down there or somewhere else.
Well,
Um,
it sounds like some
yeah,
of like at least one of these guys looks like he's been here for a decade. Like so he's literally parked his
okay,
RV on this road and lived out of it for a decade.
okay, but I mean, fine, a little bit shitty, but well, I won't say shitty, better than most. But if he needs to have that vehicle registered every day to be, or once a year to be on the road, fine, he's got to do that. Um, most RVs run on propane, gas, diesel. He
Yeah.
needs to get that. If he's been there for 10 years, how much propane has he bought compared to the guy that barbecues once a week?
Yeah.
So all that money does get put back into the
Yeah.
community because you don't go to the local propane place and get filled up. And the federal government or the provincial government, yes, taxes goes towards that, but also municipal taxes get involved, right? Local businesses, every penny that goes into a municipal business does help the municipality because if that business shuts down, they lose revenue, they lose this, they lose that, blah blah blah, and the chain goes on. So like it's a very fine line of like, fine, they don't pay property tax, but are
Yeah.
they really using anything of the property? They're not using municipal water, they're not using municipal waste,
Yeah.
which
I mean, they're,
property tax falls under.
yeah. I mean, it is a strange
It's
space
it's a
for them
weird
to
way.
be,
It's a
right?
weird
Like,
thing.
yeah, it's so one of the arguments is, like there's cars parked all the way on one side. It's a busy road, and with the cars or the RVs parked there, it narrows the road and makes it unsafe or
Okay,
less
then put
safe.
put no parking signs on the side you don't want people to park on.
Well, but I mean, but that's
Like,
the thing though, is that they're all parked along one side of the road.
yeah, the RVs are, and then
Yeah,
people
yeah.
park on the other side. But
No, no,
fine,
no. But
put
even
no
with the
parking on
RV,
both.
well, but that's what they're doing is they're putting no parking signs up because they want the RVs and everyone to get off the road so that they can go and do maintenance on the road. They want to fix
Yeah,
potholes and fix the boulevard and do a bunch of other like city maintenance stuff and keep the road in good condition, which is fair,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Agree.
I mean, if I had to live out of an RV, I would want the thing that it's sitting on to be in good shape, right? Like,
Yeah, but we
but
could also.
to do
Sorry, go ahead.
that, those RVs need to fuck off and go somewhere else so
Yes.
that they can fix the road. And this is the problem is that like there's a bunch of people saying like, well, I can't afford to leave here even if it's to go,
4 streets over, 5 streets over.
yeah.
Yeah, half the town over. But I mean, I I'd love
It's
to look into. So this was where? Fuck, where's the news article? Is
Calgary.
it Alberta? Calgary. Okay, so I
Yep.
would love to look at Calgary um, properties in this area within, let's say, just 30,
Yeah, and
40
see what
kilometer
yeah.
radius and see if there's like maybe a giant industrial complex that is not being used for anything.
Or a government parking lot anywhere.
Yeah,
Let
and
them
just
live there.
something where it's just like, hey, look, you can use this place. We're not responsible for for snow
Yeah.
removal, um, this, that, all the things. You don't get access to water. You don't get access to anything, just like you were on the road. And you can park here for $5 a month, right? So
Yeah.
you get
And
them
so
off the roads.
that's what some people are suggesting is that like there needs to be some sort of a solution. So the city has gone and said that like, hey, you guys can't be here because we need to do maintenance. We found some other spaces for you.
So I'll give them that.
But then
That
they're
at
saying that
least
like,
Calgary looked
well,
into that.
yeah, but they're saying that like, well, okay, great. Like you're telling us that we can move, like 6 streets over, but that street can only hold two RVs instead of like the 15 of us that are all on this street. So it doesn't really work for us because then like we're like our own weird little community, right? We want to be together, and if you like scatter us so that there's two here and two here and two here and two here and two here, it's easier for you to bully us because well, you only have to bully two at a time and slowly make the problem smaller and go away. But then other people are saying like, okay, well, we got to find something for it, and like there's got to be a space somewhere, and even if they have to like pay for it, as long as it is reasonable,
Yeah.
Like if
And
like a subsidized RV park or something is their
like
thing, and like
I have a camper. I've
yeah,
gone to shooting competitions where I pay somewhere to park my camper for 2, 3
yeah,
days. It's this much money. Fine. I get the amenities. I hook up to water. I
yeah,
can dump my toilet water, my sink water, all those things. Where it's just like,
yeah.
fine,
And that's
let's
what you're
not
paying
put,
for, right? You're
yeah,
you're
and
literally paying
let's,
so that you don't have to deal with the shit, right? Like
yeah,
that's
and I have a 30 amp plug right there that does
yeah,
my whole fucking camper. So it's like, fine, let's not put all those commodities in. We don't have to run water lines to,
yeah.
every eight
But
feet
we're gonna
or 10
charge them
feet.
like $5 a day or whatever a month so that
Five
they can
dollars
just
yeah,
literally park
yeah,
here
and
and
everything on there is
yeah,
on you,
they get
right?
everything that they get by parking on the street, which is literally just a place to park it.
Yeah, and fine. You take your propane tanks, you go fill them up somewhere, you
Yep.
pee in a
Yeah, you
bag, and
have
you got
you
a
have
burn
to cart
barrel, and
your own shit in and
yeah,
out or whatever you do with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or you use your toilets and you do whatever, and then you hook up to it and you go somewhere, and whether
Yeah.
it's a free dump station or something,
Yeah.
you've spent all
Yeah.
that gas to get there and back. That eventually you need to put,
Yeah.
buy gas in that
Yeah. But yeah,
area,
it's a
and yeah,
weird
it's
thing
weird.
because it's like you you're allowed to park cars on the street
Yeah,
depending on where you are for various
yeah.
lengths of time. But like, are you really allowed to live out of an RV on a public street? Like, I don't think there's anything that says that you can't.
But nothing says you can't,
Yeah, much like, and we'll
right?
we'll
Like,
flip to the other article here, which is very similar. Montreal police dismantle parts of homeless encampment east of downtown.
nice.
So, these people, at least in Calgary, at least had some money at some point or have a little bit more disposable income, and they were able to purchase an RV of some type
Yeah,
and park it on a road
you
where
you
there
got to
is
pay
no
fucking taxes for that.
right where there's no thing that says they can't park there, right? Like they certainly don't live in my neighborhood because like they'd get tickets nonstop. But
Yeah,
then you go and look at, okay, well, is there anything that says that I can't live in a tent in the public park?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, you open this article and the person's throwing a suitcase that's got four wheels on it. I live in a fucking house and I don't have a suitcase that's got four wheels on it. I still got the gay one. You got to tilt and fucking roll everywhere
Yeah,
because they want $300 for those suitcases.
yeah.
So you could probably
But
pawn that and get a hotel in the room.
well, but I mean, and then this is the sort of the contrasting these things. It's so like, the shanty town kind of thing where
Yeah,
you got like tents. And I mean, I was in the city the other day and we drove by a park and there were still people camped out there and everything. And it's like, I mean, some of their setups are like crazy elaborate,
crazy.
right?
Yeah,
Like they've got
and
like outdoor living rooms and barbecues and all the things. And it's
yeah,
like,
and
I, I get
so
it. These
if
people need to live somewhere, and I feel bad for them.
uh, yes and no, I do and I
But
don't.
well, I mean, I not that I'm gonna do a whole lot about it because I'm worried
No,
about like 15 people maybe at most, and those are the
so
people I care about. But
and the reason I say I do and I
yeah,
don't because the most in my experience and conversations I've had with people, in most scenarios, it ends up being product of their environment,
there's some
things they have
poor
done,
life
and
choices and things like that along the
yes,
way that
so
have likely led to that. But
yeah, but you want to live in a public space, okay? But do you contribute to anything public funded?
well, I mean, some of these people have fucking barbecues and everything, so like, I mean, they may not be using as much propane as the guy that bought an RV and is living on the RV on the street, but they are
Hmm,
still buying food at the local grocery store and cooking it on their hibachi or whatever they're doing. But
yeah, and
they're in like
and
a
it's
weird
where's that
plywood
cutoff?
shanty town that may or may not be safe and like
Yeah, where's that
it's a
cutoff where like I'm like you've paid
where
enough
one
taxes
goes to
that
the
you
other.
can.
It's
Yeah. You paid
yeah,
enough taxes because you bought this much that you can do this.
yeah,
And it's that thing where I'm like, even taxes for buying groceries or whatever. most of those taxes don't go towards public parks,
Yeah.
municipal roads. That's normally where pub property taxes, right? That's what maintains the roads. That's what does the parks. That's what pays for people to
Yeah.
make sure
But I
there's no
mean,
needles in the little park where your kids go and all that stuff.
or
Not
these
so
people are
much that,
camping out. Yeah. Uh,
yeah,
but I mean,
but
I'm looking
not
and like
so much.
some of these guys have some like there's all kinds of folding
Oh, buddy, it's
chairs and
and
like
you know how much this shit fucking costs? It's
yeah,
retarded.
yeah.
Like I have I have looked at those little fold up what's it called? Fucking
They,
picnic
they,
tables. And I'm
they
like, they do not cost
yeah.
little. They cost a lot of fucking money where I'm like, sit on the ground.
Okay. But I mean, I drove past like a thing in Toronto the other day, to like the park where they had setups much like this, but like this one was under one of the overpasses there for the
Yes.
Gardner. And
Yep.
these guys had like chain link fencing and they had built like this compound that they were living out of. So like, they're already kind of protected being under the highway, but like and then it was all tarped in, but like actual solid chain link fencing that they had dragged from somewhere and built this cage with a door that could be locked and all like it was insane like some of these things are doing. But yeah, it's
But
just
like,
an interesting, that
but it's also funny that if you were gonna build a compound, you put it under a fucking overpass. That's a fucking
yeah.
stupid move. I mean, go buy 1,000 fucking acres in the middle of butt fuck nowhere in northern Ontario or anywhere unorganized township where it can't tell you much. But
Yeah. But
yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
just an interesting thing that like we're getting,
yeah,
the same kind of thing happening and like shelters are full and all the things. So like I said, like these people need to be somewhere and like our
yeah.
government has failed at across the country, it seems, on multiple levels where you've got people that are in these situations where like everything is so expensive. Nobody
Yeah,
can afford groceries or a place to live or do all of the things.
I vote we send these people to government people's houses.
Yes. I
Yes,
am 100% on board with
or
that. Trudeau
all the
has
people.
three residences, like
Yeah,
the cottage that he lives in right now,
yeah,
the
yeah,
other residence that's under repair, and then like the actual like cottage in the wilderness, which is also massive, and they did a bunch of renovations on.
no.
And then all of
But
the other, like the Speaker of the House gets like his house like outside of town, and then he's got an apartment in downtown Ottawa and all the things.
yeah,
There's a
so
lot of
all
property owned by government that could house a
yeah,
bunch of people.
and all those people are
Yeah.
vouching for these people, saying
Yeah.
like, "Hey, we need to help them," and it's
Yeah.
like,
I
cool,
mean,
let them
there's
live
that
in your house for a month and
yeah,
see
there's
how you
that
like it.
company that got like a few $1 million in things to do the firearms buyback consultation that doesn't have anyone working out of their buildings that homeless
Mm,
people could live there. Like,
yeah,
like when you go and you buy a house and they tell you that it has 3 bedrooms or whatever, like, if you put a bed in a room, it becomes a bedroom,
yeah.
right? Like, they don't let people
So
tell
like,
you what the
my
rooms are
living
for.
room is a bedroom, my kitchen is a
Yeah.
bedroom. Like, yeah. So just
I mean,
saying.
at least it would be a step up from a tent in the park, right? It's inside,
Uh,
it's warm and all
allegedly.
the things. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of government facilities out there that could be turned into temporary or permanent housing for some people. And I would
And
be okay with that.
you'd be surprised how many buildings have
Yeah.
been are being changed past the COVID. So my brother works for a company where he worked at an office, giant building, I want to say 10-ish floors. The COVID's happened. They sent everybody home because, it was the Black Plague coming, the Black Plague 2.0. And then they realized, they told my brother, you are never coming back to the fucking office. It is cheaper for us to pay you
Yeah.
every month to subsidize, your internet, some of your household supplies during those work hours compared to paying for a giant fucking building. So
Yep.
they, someone, I don't know who, bought that building and they're turning them into condos. And I'm like, so he works for a giant financial institute in Canada that if I said it, probably I would say 30-ish% of listeners would be like, "Hey, I deal with them." That he
Yeah.
deals with things where I'm like, they pay every 2 years so much to upgrade his chair. They paid for the desk. They paid for this company supplied laptop. So corporate laptop. Hey, it's all encrypted. It's on us if anything happens. You just need reliable, high-speed internet.
Yeah.
That's the requirement. And they subsidize, let's say, $60 a month to offset that cost of
Yeah.
internet compared to if you didn't have that and you did whatever. So he's just like, he lives at his apartment and he's like, I literally go from my bedroom to the
Yeah.
kitchen to make a coffee to the bathroom to my work desk. And he's like, I do all that in less than 30 steps.
Yeah. No, I
And
mean, that's been a thing. There's a lot of companies that have realized that like, yeah, the rent that they're paying on a building and
yeah,
the all of the
all
things
of
to
it.
maintain this office building, they don't need that shit.
Mm-mm.
It's like it's cheaper for us to pay, like, we don't even have to pay 100% of their internet. We just have to pay half of it because they were going to pay
Yeah.
that shit anyways,
Right, but not yeah. Even if they pay
right?
100%, how much the offset of how much the
It's still
property
cheaper.
taxes, the
Yeah.
maintenance crew, you've got all the hydro at that fucking
Yeah.
like at that building and everything, right? Even if they paid 100% of everything, but it's just like, fine,
Yeah.
you want high speed internet at your house, you need to use it for work. You work 8 hours a day, that's a
Yeah, we
third of the
pay.
day. Well, you're gonna pay a third of your internet, right?
Yeah.
Up to a certain set amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my
For a lot of
brother,
businesses, it was a no-brainer to switch to
yeah,
that model. And like, I mean, that was one of the weird things that came out of COVID that I don't necessarily think is a bad thing because it certainly made businesses,
efficient.
yeah. And
Yeah,
there's a
like
bunch of people that like wanted to work from home, but were in jobs that traditionally were not work from home jobs, but now all of a sudden they are.
right,
So
and not even that. So like think about the bottom line for these giant companies that
yeah,
realize this and sold those assets off and now they don't have an overhang, right?
yeah,
So they still pay like the employee still gets,
yeah, they get the
$100,000 a
same and
year.
everything else. Yeah.
But if you were to break down how much this building costs per person in there,
Oh yeah.
right? They're paying, let's say $5 million. And they're like,
Yeah.
okay, but let's take $1 million and split it up between all those employees, to offset that cost of extra toilet paper, paper towel,
Oh yeah, like
all
yeah,
all those
all of
things.
those other things that you don't put
Yeah,
into a calculation normally
yeah,
because yeah, it's like, oh
all
shit.
those things.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah,
We had to
you
buy
you
toilet
gotta
paper. We probably had
you
to
gotta
buy
subsidize 500
coffee
people
and
for 8 hours a
creamer and
day. Yeah, so
all of
all
the
those things. So
stupid things.
we're gonna take a
Cleaning.
little bit and we're gonna give $200 to every employee a month to offset the cost.
Yeah.
So that costs $1 million. So their overhang was already 5 million on top of everything they already paid. They're already positive 4 million a year,
Oh yeah. Easy.
and nothing has changed.
Yep.
Now there's also giant benefits. Now there's no cost to get to and from work,
Yep.
whether you live 20 minutes from the house or not. Gas, wear and tear, traffic. You at half hour there, half hour back, you lose an hour of your day just getting to and from work. Tank of gas a week,
Oh yeah.
brakes,
It,
transmission, all those things, right?
it benefited everyone.
Benefits the person. Where I'm like, the company didn't even take that into account. Where I'm like, some people are just like, fuck, I'm saving, $1,000 a year now, two
Yeah.
thousand dollars a year, depending how much you had to travel. Where yeah, like, but also there's downsides to it because my brother's catalytic converters got cut out of the parking lot in his apartment building, and it took 10 months to get new cats, and then his brakes seized up and they couldn't find brakes because whatever, so he had to get a new
Yeah, but that could
vehicle.
have
But
happened anyways, right? Like, yeah.
yeah, yeah, but it's it's still a thing.
Yeah. Well,
So I don't know. Let's just take one of those buildings that are
yeah.
already paid by government, and I don't know what's the capacity for it. Put a bunch of people in it.
Yeah. Charge them a few bucks for a bed or like, hey, couple of bucks a month to park your RV. No hookup or nothing, just to park it, but you could
Yeah,
live there.
just to park it. Yeah,
Yeah.
just to park it. That. but I've lived in a camper for I want to say it was 7, 8 months. It was a friend's driveway. We had power. It was a bitch. We had to hook up a bunch of pipes to dump the fucking gray water and the black water and everything. It wasn't convenient, but I I paid to live there. I said, "Hey, we're thinking paying you this much," and he said, "Hey, that's good." Yeah, we dumped all our stuff in their septic, and we had water. They were on well, didn't pay for water, but I'm like, "We'll pay you this much." Their hydro went up $40. We were paying way more than fucking $40. So I'm like, I don't know, maybe that's a thing as well that maybe we shouldn't ban people from living in RVs or campers in a backyard or on a property that we already pay for. And if I decide to have someone Airbnb in my camper in the backyard that I don't use often or
Yeah,
whatever, could be a thing too.
some people will pay good money for that.
Yeah.
Well,
So
well, I think that's enough shit talking the government for one evening. Uh,
if you
Pierre?
say so.
Yeah, I mean we could go for hours and hours, but where can people find you or maybe get some last minute Christmas orders in?
Yes, off the wall customizing at gmail.com. I don't know what socialist media.
Yeah,
Um,
shoot them an email. Get some custom
yeah,
t-shirts made out. They make great
yes,
gifts. Or
whatever.
tumblers or sweatpants or
Yes.
sweaters or hats or any
Um,
number of things that you guys can customize.
yes, so we can laser engrave and we can press anything on a pretty much any piece of clothing. And I am finally back on the Patriot Discord after today because I forgot about, I don't know, a month
Yeah,
and a
that's
half,
fine.
2 months ago when I found out we were there. But or you can occasionally or mostly find me also Sunday nights on the Copycat CPP, the Canadian Prepper podcast at 9 o'clock on Use Tubes and Bookface.
Yeah. Um, if you've listened to the show for this long, you definitely deserve a discount. So use the code Patriot at checkout at ragnaroktactical.ca. Uh, pick up some tactical stuff or some medical
Mm.
stuff. Those also make wonderful gifts for Christmas and or
They make
Yule or
the best, better than my
Hanukkah or
shirts.
whatever it is that you celebrate. They will all make wonderful gifts. Um, you can find me personally on Instagram, UrbexGTA. Also, apologies to Rod and to our listeners. I totally thought we had this one worked out and that we had
Yeah,
Rod on CPP because he agreed to be on to CPP, but we got the
but
wrong
uh,
CPP and he was actually on Canadian Prepper podcast last night. Luckily, I
yeah,
caught it and Pierre and I were both be able to be there to
yes,
chat with him. But we'll work on it and we'll try to get it sorted out to have him on this one. But yeah, I mean, it happens, right? Like there's too many podcasts with the same name
yeah.
or
It's it
acronym, if you will, right?
yeah. It was
Yeah.
close. It was
We were
really
so
close.
close. A day off, and yeah,
Uh,
that's all right.
like 24 hours off.
Yeah, we'll work on it. I promise. We will get better. But it was great chatting with Rod. Hopefully, we'll get him on here one day soon. Aside from that, I would like to remind you all that you are a small fringe minority with unacceptable views.